Good morning and evening, friend. I don't know what you're going through right now. I don't know the burden you're carrying, but I do know this. God sees you, He knows your pain, and He's telling you today, don't give up. Maybe you're tired of the fight, tired of waiting, tired of praying for something that hasn't happened yet. Maybe you feel like the break through will never come, but listen to me, God has not forgotten you. Point 1. God sees your struggle in Exodus 3:7. God told Moses, I have indeed seen the misery of my people. I have heard them crying out, and I am concerned about their suffering. That's not just for the Israelites in Egypt. That's for you, right here, right now. God says, I see what you're going through. I've seen every tear you've cried behind closed doors. I've seen every time you got back up when no one else noticed. You're not invisible to Him. Your struggle is not overlooked in heaven. Point 2. God is working even when you can't see it. One of the hardest things in life is waiting on God when it feels like nothing is happening. But friend, silence is not absence. Delay is not denial. Isaiah 64:4 says, God acts on behalf of those who wait for Him. You may not see it, but God is setting things in motion behind the scenes. He's opening doors you don't even know exist. He's aligning people, resources, and timing for your good. So don't give up. What you sow in tears, you will reap in joy. Point 3. God specializes in comebacks. Every great story in the Bible has a turning point where God steps in when it looked hopeless. Joseph went from prison to palace. Job lost everything and God restored double. Lazarus was dead 4 days and Jesus still showed up. And if God can raise the dead, He can raise your situation too. Galatians 6:9 says, Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest, if we do not give up. You're closer to your breakthrough than you think. Point 4. God uses our pain for a greater purpose. The struggle you're facing now could be the story someone else needs later. Your endurance, your faith, your perseverance, it's not wasted. God is shaping you for something greater. Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That means even the sleepless nights, the heartache, the waiting, God is weaving it into a greater purpose. Closing, so today, take a deep breath. You're not alone. God is with you, and He's saying, don't give up. I'm not done yet. What I started in you, I will finish. When you feel weak, lean on His strength. When you're tired, rest in His promises. When you're confused, trust His heart. Because the God who brought you this far won't leave you now. Don't give up. Your miracle may be just around the corner. God sees your pain even when no one else does. Sometimes the most difficult part of our struggles isn't just the burden we're carrying, it's the feeling that we're carrying it alone. You could be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. You might be the one who encourages everyone else, keeps smiling, keeps showing up, and yet inside you're breaking in ways nobody seems to notice. That's where the enemy loves to whisper, no one understands you. No one sees what you're going through. You're invisible, forgotten. But friend, that is a lie straight from the pit of hell. The truth is, God sees. The one who created you, who formed you in your mother's womb, who numbered every hair on your head. He sees you right now. He doesn't just see your actions, He sees your heart. He sees the anxiety you cover with a smile. He sees the tears you cry when the door is shut and the world has gone quiet. He sees the disappointment you feel when yet another prayer seems unanswered. You don't have to explain yourself to Him. You don't have to pretend. God sees the full picture when others only see the surface. In Genesis 16, there's a woman named Hagar. She was used, mistreated, and cast out. Alone in the wilderness with no plan and no hope. She was at her lowest point, but that's where God met her. He didn't wait for her to have it all together. He didn't wait for her to clean up her past. He met her right there in her brokenness, and in that moment she gave God a name, El Roi, the God who sees me. What a powerful truth. God sees us even in the wilderness. Even when we feel abandoned and forgotten by people, we are never abandoned or forgotten by Him. You may be walking through something today that feels like your own wilderness. Maybe you feel like no one understands what you're going through. You've tried to explain it, but words fail. You feel isolated in your pain. But God understands. He doesn't just see you, He knows exactly what you're feeling. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That means in your lowest moment, when your heart is shattered in pieces and you feel like you can't go on. He is not distant, He is near. Think about that. The God who rules over galaxies chooses to be close to the brokenhearted. That's who He is. He's not just watching from a distance. He's not just checking in occasionally. He's walking with you through every single valley, sitting beside you through every sleepless night, whispering truth when lies try to drown out your hope. And when the world turns away or doesn't notice your pain, God leans in closer. Sometimes we assume if God really saw us, He would fix everything instantly, but God's seeing is not passive. When He sees, He moves. But He doesn't always move the way we expect. His ways are higher than ours. He sees from a perspective we can't grasp. While we cry out for a quick rescue, He's writing a bigger story. A deeper work is happening inside of you right now. He's shaping your character, strengthening your faith, and preparing something beautiful that you can't yet see. But through it all, He sees. Maybe you've been faithful for a long time and you're wondering if your obedience is even noticed. Maybe you've been kind when others weren't, generous when no one said thank you, loving when it was hard, and deep down you wonder, does any of this matter? Does anyone see? Yes, God sees. Hebrews 6:10 says, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown Him. Every act of faith, every quiet prayer, every moment of perseverance, it matters. Nothing you've done in His name has gone unnoticed. People may overlook you, friends may forget you, even family may fail you. But the eyes of the Lord are always upon you. You don't have to fight for His attention. You already have it. You are not invisible to Him. You are not forgotten. You are fully seen and deeply known. And there's a comfort in that kind of seeing, a comfort no human can provide. God doesn't just notice your pain, He enters into it. He carries it with you. He holds your heart when it's breaking and whispers hope into your darkness. So even when no one else claps for your faithfulness, God applauds. When no one else validates your effort, God honors it. When no one else acknowledges the strength it takes just to get through the day, God celebrates your perseverance. His eyes are on you, not with judgment, but with compassion, mercy, and love. God is working behind the scenes, even in silence. One of the hardest seasons in life is when it feels like God is silent. You pray, but there's no answer. You wait, but nothing changes. You serve faithfully, but the breakthrough doesn't come. In those moments, it's tempting to believe that God has stepped away, that maybe He's forgotten your name, your dreams, your situation. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Silence from God is never a sign of His absence. Often it's a sign that He's working on something deeper than what your eyes can see. God is never idle. He's never asleep, never distracted, never too busy. The same God who formed the universe with a word is intimately involved in every detail of your life. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean there isn't momentum. Just because you don't hear His voice doesn't mean He isn't speaking. Sometimes God speaks loudest in the stillness, and sometimes He's doing His greatest work in the silence. In the book of Esther, God's name is never mentioned, not once, but His hand is evident in every chapter. Behind every twist, every turn, every unexpected event, God was orchestrating deliverance for His people. He raised up Esther for such a time as this, without making a grand announcement. The same is true for your life. You may not see fireworks, you may not feel goosebumps, but that doesn't mean God is not moving on your behalf. Think of a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. It's buried unseen, surrounded by darkness. But deep beneath the surface, roots are growing, a foundation is forming, and in the right time, at the appointed season, it breaks through the soil and reveals what was always developing in secret. That's what God is doing in your life. He's preparing you in hidden places. He's building the strength you'll need for where He's taking you. You may be praying for an open door, and it feels like everything is locked. But God might be constructing a door that's never existed before. You may be asking for deliverance, and God is preparing a deliverance that will not only free you but impact generations. That's how He works, lowly, precisely, lovingly, and always purposefully. There's a reason Isaiah 55:8-9 says, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." What feels like a delay to you might actually be divine timing. What feels like silence might be God setting the stage for something greater than you can imagine. Joseph spent years in a prison cell after being betrayed by his brothers and falsely accused. He must have felt forgotten, discarded, even invisible, but God hadn't forgotten. Behind the scenes, God was aligning circumstances that would elevate Joseph to second in command of Egypt. If Joseph had been released earlier, he might have returned to a normal life, but because he waited, because God worked in silence, Joseph was positioned to save an entire nation. What looked like a setback was actually a setup. You may not understand the why right now. The waiting may feel endless. The silence may be deafening. But God's word promises that He's not only with you, He's working all things together for good. Romans 8:28 doesn't say God works some things. It says all things. That includes the things you didn't choose, the things that hurt, the things you thought would break you. Even now, He's taking every thread and weaving it into a masterpiece. So don't measure God's faithfulness by what you feel. Emotions are real, but they are not always accurate. God's character doesn't change just because your circumstances do. If He said He will do it, He will. He doesn't tease, He doesn't abandon, and He doesn't make empty promises. What He has spoken over your life, He is still bringing to pass, even in the silence. Trust His hands even when you can't trace His plan. Trust His timing even when the clock seems to be running out. Trust that behind every quiet moment there's a God who is actively working, faithfully building, and lovingly preparing what's next. Delay is not denial. God's timing is perfect. Waiting is never easy. It challenges our patience, tests our faith, and often makes us question whether we've been forgotten. We live in a world that thrives on instant results, fast answers, quick fixes, immediate responses. But God doesn't operate on human timelines. He is not rushed. He is not pressured. He moves with precision, not panic. What feels like a delay to you is often part of a divine schedule that is unfolding perfectly according to His will. God is more interested in what He's doing in you during the wait than simply getting you through it. When it seems like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling or your breakthrough is taking too long, that's when you need to remember God's delays are not His denials. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It simply means the time isn't right, and God, in His wisdom, only gives blessings in their proper season. Ecclesiastes 3:11 tells us He has made everything beautiful in its time. Not before its time, not after its time, in its time. That includes your healing, your promotion, your restoration, your answered prayer. The delay is never meant to harm you. It's often the space where God prepares the situation, shapes your character, and aligns everything for your good. You are not being punished in the waiting. You're being prepared. Think about Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, but it took 25 years for that promise to be fulfilled. 25 years of wondering, waiting, and believing. At times they stumbled. At times they doubted. But God was faithful to His word. And when Isaac was finally born, it was clear that the delay didn't cancel the promise, it confirmed God's power to fulfill it. Sometimes we mistake God's patience for forgetfulness, but God never forgets what He's promised. 2 Peter 3:9 says, "The Lord is not slow in keeping His promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, He is patient with you." That means what looks like slowness to us is actually the mercy and wisdom of God at work. He sees what you cannot, He knows what's coming. He's protecting you from things that aren't ready yet, and preparing you for things you're not yet ready for. There are lessons we can only learn in the waiting. There's strength that's forged in the silence. There's maturity that can only grow when we're stretched beyond our comfort. God doesn't waste time, and He doesn't waste seasons. Every moment of delay has a purpose. It may be the very thing that saves you from settling for less than His best. You might feel stuck right now. You've prayed, fasted, believed, and nothing seems to change. But don't confuse delay with inactivity. God is not ignoring you. He's not punishing you. He's building something deeper, something lasting. Faith that only works on a fast timeline is fragile faith. Real faith learns to trust even in the dark. It learns to wait even when the wait feels endless. It learns to stand even when the wind is strong and answers feel far away. David waited years to become king after being anointed. Joseph waited in prison before stepping into leadership. Moses waited in the wilderness before leading the Israelites. Jesus waited 30 years before beginning His public ministry. Waiting is not a detour, it's often the path itself. It's where God grows you into the person who can handle the blessing you've been asking for. The delay might feel like rejection, but it's actually protection. If God gave you what you asked for too soon, it might overwhelm you, but when He gives it in the right time, it will sustain you. He doesn't just want you to arrive, He wants you to thrive when you get there. So keep trusting, keep believing, keep doing what's right, even when it's hard. The promise still stands, the blessing is still on the way, and when the time is right, no force on earth can stop what God has ordained for you. Your struggle is preparation for a greater purpose. Life often doesn't make sense when you're in the middle of a storm. The pain feels random, the suffering feels unfair, and the path ahead seems hidden. But nothing in your life is wasted when it's placed in God's hands. Every trial, every setback, every broken place is being used as preparation. What feels like resistance is often refinement. What looks like loss may actually be laying the foundation for something greater than you can imagine. God doesn't waste a wound. He doesn't allow pain without purpose. Romans 8:28 assures us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Notice it doesn't say some things. It says all things. That includes your heartbreak, your confusion, your disappointment, even the closed doors and unanswered prayers. They are all part of a bigger picture that only God can see fully right now. Sometimes the struggle feels unbearable because we believe it has no meaning, but when you realize that what you're walking through is shaping you, strengthening you, and equipping you for what's ahead, the struggle takes on new value. Your tears water the roots of a purpose that's still growing underground. The very battle you're fighting today might be the exact place where God gives you influence, compassion, and wisdom tomorrow. Think about Joseph. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. For years, his life looked like one tragedy after another, but God was using every moment to prepare him for a position of power and purpose. When famine struck Egypt, Joseph wasn't just in the right place. He was the right person, with the right experience, the right endurance, and the right perspective. What looked like a detour was actually a divine setup. Your story may be different, but the principle is the same. You are not being destroyed. You are being developed. You are not being disqualified. You are being qualified. The fire you're walking through is forging strength, faith, and resilience. God is using your struggle to build something eternal in you, something that can't be shaken by the winds of life. It's in our weakest moments that we discover the depth of God's strength. It's in our darkest valleys that we find the light of His presence. And it's in our greatest trials that He often reveals our greatest assignments. The pain you've been carrying may one day be the testimony that helps someone else survive. What you learn in the struggle becomes the wisdom you share with others. What you overcome becomes a roadmap for someone else's journey. Struggles refine your character. They teach you to depend on God more than your own strength. They stretch your faith, grow your humility, and shift your focus from temporary comfort to eternal purpose. God isn't just trying to make you comfortable. He's trying to make you courageous, and that courage is birthed in the hard places where you learn that He is enough. If you never had to fight through fear, you wouldn't know how brave you really are. If you never had to walk through uncertainty, you wouldn't learn how to trust God step by step. And if you never felt broken, you wouldn't understand the beauty of being restored. God allows struggle not to harm you, but to shape you into someone who reflects His glory in every season. Sometimes we want the destination, but we don't want the journey that prepares us for it. We want the calling, but not the crushing that comes before the oil. But God knows what's needed. He knows how to build a vessel that can carry His purpose. And that building often happens through trials that test, break, and rebuild you stronger. So while you may not understand why you're going through what you're facing, trust that it's not pointless. It's not punishment. It's preparation. You're being molded, equipped, and empowered for something greater than where you are now. The struggle is real, but so is the purpose it's leading you to. God specializes in turning hopelessness into miracles. There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. The doors are closing, the answers aren't coming, the prayers seem to echo back in silence. It feels like you're trapped in a season where nothing makes sense and hope feels out of reach. That's the exact space where God steps in and does His most powerful work. He is not intimidated by your hopelessness. In fact, He specializes in meeting people at the end of themselves and beginning something new right there. Hopelessness is not the end of your story. It's the starting point for a miracle. All throughout Scripture, we see a consistent pattern. God moves most powerfully when situations appear most impossible. When the odds are against you, when the diagnosis is grim, when the finances don't add up, when the relationship seems shattered beyond repair, that is when God shows up and reminds you that nothing is too hard for Him. Think of the Israelites standing at the Red Sea, Pharaoh's army behind them, water in front of them, and no visible way out. From a human perspective, it was hopeless, but God made a way where there was no way. He parted the waters and led His people through on dry ground. What seemed like a dead end became the scene of a divine deliverance. That's how God works. He turns barriers into breakthroughs. Or consider Lazarus in the tomb. He wasn't just sick, he was dead. For 4 days his body lay lifeless while his loved ones wept. They believed it was over, but Jesus arrived and spoke life where there was none. "Lazarus, come out," He said. And a man who had been dead walked out of the grave alive. That's not just a story about physical resurrection. It's a message to anyone who feels like their hope, their purpose, or their future has died. God still speaks life into lifeless places. Hopelessness is not a limitation for God, it's an opportunity. Where man sees defeat, God sees a canvas for His glory. Where we see an end, He sees a beginning. The miracle is often born in the darkest hour, when we've run out of options, and the only thing left to do is trust Him. And when we do, we discover He was never out of answers. He was waiting for the moment when we would stop striving and start surrendering. You may feel like your situation is too far gone. You may feel like you've made too many mistakes, waited too long, or failed too deeply, but God's grace reaches further than your mess. His mercy runs deeper than your past. There is no hole so deep that His hand cannot reach down and pull you out. No matter how hopeless things may appear, his power has not changed. Sometimes we want the miracle without the waiting, without the pressure, without the pain. But it's often in the waiting that our hearts are softened, in the pressure that our faith is forged, in the pain that our eyes are opened to how much we truly need him. The miracle doesn't just change the situation, it changes you. It deepens your trust, it clarifies your perspective, and it anchors your hope in something eternal. Even when you don't see progress, God is still working. Even when the door is shut, he's still planning. Even when you feel defeated, he's still fighting for you. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" God is doing something new in your life, even if it hasn't surfaced yet. He's rearranging things behind the scenes, connecting people, shifting circumstances, and preparing a miracle with your name on it. So when hope seems lost, when your strength is gone, and when your heart feels heavy, remember, that's not the end. That's the very moment where God does what only he can do. He brings beauty from ashes, joy from mourning, and purpose from pain. The same God who raised the dead, healed the blind, and calmed the storm is still at work today, and he hasn't forgotten about you. What you're going through now is shaping who you're becoming next. Every season of your life, especially the hard ones, carries with it the power to transform you. You may not see it in the moment, but God is using your present struggle to prepare you for future strength. He never wastes what you walk through. The challenges you face, the pressures you endure, the battles you fight. These are not just obstacles. They are tools in the hands of the one who is forming your character, deepening your faith, and shaping you into someone who can carry his calling with endurance. The person you're becoming matters more to God than the comfort you feel today. Growth doesn't come from the easy moments, it comes through resistance. You don't get stronger by avoiding challenges. You grow stronger by walking through them with faith. And with each trial, God is refining you, stretching you, and teaching you to trust him in deeper ways. He's building spiritual muscle that you'll need later for doors he's preparing to open. God isn't just preparing blessings for you, he's preparing you for the blessings. Sometimes we want the promotion, the platform, or the purpose, but we're not yet equipped to handle it. That's why the process matters. It's in the process that you learn humility. It's in the process that you learn to depend on God, not your own ability. It's in the process that you're refined and readied for what's ahead. Think about David. He didn't go from shepherd boy to king overnight. He spent years in hidden places, fields, caves, wilderness. Those were the years when God shaped his heart, built his courage, and taught him to trust fully. Before David defeated Goliath publicly, he had already defeated lions and bears privately. God used those smaller battles to prepare him for the giant, and God is doing the same in your life, training you in quiet seasons so you're ready for loud victories. Sometimes we ask God to change our circumstances, but God uses the circumstances to change us. The fire you're walking through now is burning off what can't go with you into the next season. The weight you're carrying is building the endurance you'll need to run farther later. God sees the whole picture. He knows who you're becoming, even when all you can see is who you've been. The storm you're in may feel like it's too much, but storms don't just come to disrupt your life. They often come to clear a path. What you're enduring now might be the very thing that clears distractions, reorders priorities, and resets your focus. God is not distant in your struggle. He's right in the middle of it, molding you into someone stronger, wiser, and more rooted in him. You may not feel it, but every act of faith you take, even the small ones, is shaping your soul. Every time you keep going when you want to quit, every time you choose hope over despair, every time you choose prayer over panic. These choices are not insignificant. They are building something inside of you that will last far beyond this current challenge. Who you are becoming through this season is more important than anything you're trying to achieve in it. Because when you finally step into what God has for you, you'll realize that it was never just about the destination. It was about being molded into a vessel that can carry the weight of what's next. A person who knows how to persevere, how to stand strong, how to live anchored in purpose and unwavering in faith. So take heart. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you are growing, you are being shaped. And the God who began this good work in you isn't finished yet. What feels like pressure now is part of your preparation. What feels like breaking is often God making something brand new. The process is painful, but who you are becoming through it is powerful.